bit delayed there.
Good afternoon and welcome to our live event today on Facebook. I am very glad today that we've got Cathy Brown with us. Cathy is the owner of Imperium Cathys, and we're having some technical issues today, just a wee bit of feedback. Hopefully you can hear enough. So, Cathy, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
So, Cathy, tell us a wee bit about you, personally speaking, your life and family history.
Okay, well, I'm Cathy, and I have a business called Imperium Cashflow. Family-wise, there's myself and my husband Craig, and the two girls, Kitty and Kiva, and two mental dogs, Alfie and Darcy. So we've just been enjoying family life over what has been extremely difficult times, but obviously with the weather being so good, we've really enjoyed the last 9 weeks of barbecuing and sitting in the garden and having fun. Really. Yeah, and that's us.
So really, I suppose you're thinking of the whole COVID thing. So how have you actually, what's been happening family-wise around COVID, and what's been the worst thing, but maybe what's been the best thing for you in all of this?
Well, I suppose family life hasn't changed too much, in that Craig's still going out to work every day, and the biggest obviously difference is that the girls are getting on with their work at home, but they've been fantastic, not causing any issues or anything. They just get on with it, and then I think they sort of the mindset: the sooner they get it done, the sooner they get finished. So it has been absolutely grand. So in that sense, family life hasn't changed too much. That we're not all on top of each other 24/7. With Craig going out to work every day, so it's fine. We're just getting on with it. And as I say, I actually really quite enjoyed it for a good while.
So you were saying about the barbecues and things, has that been some of the benefits? Although we've had the good weather, of course.
We have had the good weather. I think it would have been different for a lot of people if the weather wasn't so good, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah. I think that's a massive bonus at the moment. The weather is absolutely fantastic. We've had a couple of barbecues, which has been really good and real benefit to us. We have a couple of people who are listening online. I believe that Ruth Young is listening, and also Helen McMahon. So that's fantastic. Again, can I just say, if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat box for Cathy. Just looking at some of my notes, really. So that's a wee bit about you personally, Cathy. What about the business side? Tell me about you, where you started from, and where you've come to now with your business.
Yeah, okay. So I worked in the credit control side of things for a number of years, and then it was actually after the last recession, and I went out my own. Actually, thanks to being a member of BNI, I was a member of BNI as an employee and got some amazing support from my fellow BNI colleagues, who had said, look, just go do it on your own, everything's going to be fine and we'll support you. And that was, I think, probably about 7 years ago now. And ever since, so we've just been building the business to suit. We then basically give help to small businesses in the finance side of things. We work very closely with our clients' accountants and people within the business, just to provide different solutions, and everything's bespoke to the client, because some people may need some services, others don't need a full range, some need the whole heap. So that could be from doing their bookkeeping right through to the credit control. So we maybe issue the invoices out to the customers and follow the process right the way through. We will then offer credit management in terms of onboarding of new clients, doing the credit risk assessments, and following that the way through, and making sure, or trying to make sure, that invoices are paid in time. So we look at the credit control side of things. The bookkeeping, we manage that. We're very much have focused and driven the business this last number of years down the digital side of things. So everything's very cloud-based. It's a fantastic, there's some fantastic solutions out there for a small business owner. And what I really loved about it is that we've gone from the days that a good account system costs an arm and a leg, and small businesses didn't have the ability to have that. That is not the case anymore. So we've really been driving that, sorting out some excellent solutions for our clients, and just managing that going forward. And then the cash flow side of things, and that we just make sure that we are looking in depthly at the cash for businesses, especially small businesses who maybe never would have really focused on that before. So that's where we've developed the business over the last number of years. I've got a great team of girls who support me, although very much missing them in and out of the office at the minute. So it's been fantastic to watch the business grow. It's been fantastic. I love it's my passion to watch business owners really take their business on board and grow with it, and watching just them grow, especially new starts. That has been amazing over the last couple of years. Working with, right at the ground as businesses get off, somebody's decided to start a business, and really people get into business to do what they love. It's not to look after the finances, they're not look after the bookkeeping, or not manage their cash flow, and really to provide a solution that is cost effective for them and economical for them, to give them that expertise, and keep on top of it and really keep an eye on it and keep them accountable to that side of their business over the last number of years. So I have been working with some amazing people. I'm very fortunate that I get to do that. I'm very fortunate that I have some absolutely fantastic people working with me that can manage the processes in the background while I can jump in and out with the client whenever's needed. So
just drawing you back a wee bit, Cathy. So you said you started up in the recession the last time. So what date was that?
Well, it was just after the recession. It was a year or two after the recession. And actually, I've been thinking about it a lot recently, because of everything that's going on in the economic environment at the minute, and what will be impacted. And after the last recession, it was the young entrepreneurs, or all entrepreneurs, that really shone after the recession. And that was maybe because they didn't have a choice, or because they just seen an opportunity and they ran with it. And that's what really held up our economy in Northern Ireland. They were very heavily relied upon. And, I think that's what's going to be happening in the future. So that's really, I just had to get on with it and do something that would bring in some money at that time, and build a business that would allow me to have the particular family life that I wanted to have moving forward.
So you started out on your own, just you personally, or did you partnerships, or what was going on?
Well, at the time, I worked for a company, and had a business then with a girl who was in it, and we both done the same sort of thing. But then we just sort of went our individual ways, just because of the places that we lived in. And we did have an office in Belfast, but it really wasn't feasible for the services that we were offering to give clients that value for money. So then went our own separate ways, and that was a number of years ago. And so just grew. I came back to Lisburn, and managed to join BNI in Lisburn. Actually, I was in a chapter in Belfast, which we then moved. And I was very fortunate at the time to meet a lovely lady, Julie Gray, who I shared an office with for a wee while. She had a fantastic company doing software, recommended CRM systems and stuff, and it really was a role model to me for quite a while. Shared an office with her in Lisburn there for a while, and it was fantastic just to watch her work. And sort of she took me under her wing for a good while, and allowed me just to develop my business and where I wanted to drive it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned about Julie, and again, Julie had quite an effect even on my own personal business and things I was doing. And I know she's living just close to Donegal direction now, but she was recently on the Dragon's Den event as well. So really progressed, and that's fantastic.
Incredible business.
Where you were and where you are now. So how many staff have you got now? You've got yourself, and you said you had other staff.
Yeah, we've got a team of 3, and unfortunately not in the office at the minute, due to everything that's went on. But everybody's just pulling together. It's I'm very lucky to have that support, and just getting on with things where they can. Obviously, everybody has their own issues at the minute. There's no schools for childcare and things like that. So, but everybody just moves on when they can. If I need anything, I can call on them, and it's great.
We actually have a few people watching, and with Ruth Young actually has been a question here. in the chat box who says, I'm not a pushy person when it comes to chasing money. What tips or advice do you have for chasing up overdue invoices?
Okay, well, in terms of overdue invoices, I think that you need to build a relationship with the customer, and that's what we would always say. It used to be, and people would have said, "He who shouts loudest gets paid first." And I have not found that over the number of years that I've been involved in the credit control side of things. It is very much about building a relationship with your customers. Now, unfortunately, we're in different times at the minute, in that obviously the whole cash flow is for everybody is very much unstable in terms of where they are, but keep in touch with the customers, with your clients, follow up, do as you say you're going to do. If you tell them you're going to call them back, make sure you do call them back. If there is a query, ensure that the query has been dealt with quickly and effectively. But really that's it. It's consistency and doing what you say you're going to do, and making that phone call. And don't be afraid to make that phone call, because sometimes people are very busy, and if they do not have somebody at that minute working on their accounts, that the credit control and paying bills falls down to the bottom of the priority list. So ensure that you're keeping in contact. That's what I would say. It's not that it's being pushy. There is a need for your business that you receive your money. So it's not. There's nothing to feel bad about. There's nothing to feel like you are being pushy. That's not the case. People have taken your services on the understanding of the bill that they have to pay you, and that's all you're doing. It's just an exchange of money.
I must also show a disclaimer here from Ruth. Says 99% of my clients have been wonderful the due date. So, but again, it was a great question just to ask.
It was a great question. Thank you, Ruth.
Just thinking of some of your clients. What type of client do you have? What sectors do they fall into? How do you feel you work best for?
Okay, well, we have I deal with such a varied range of sectors, and obviously we provide such a range of services that some will suit others. In terms of the cash flow management, we would look at we would deal with small businesses, so manufacturing, retail, haulage. Oh goodness, there's so many different fall into so many different ranges. Consulting, and the cash flow management. So that's quite a bespoke one when we're going in and we're looking at the inflows and outflows of the business. And that's something that I would say at the minute is very, very important for people moving forward, that they have that cash flow statement. They're looking at the inflows, and very much whenever there's an inflow, there's an outflow to match that. For example, finance, and you've got the interest. We've got whenever you've got your operations, for your sales coming in, there's obviously a cost to all that as well. So making sure you look at the statement and then forecasting, and that is going to be so important and so critical for everybody now, so critical for the small business owner. In terms of the credit control, it would be larger businesses, and maybe that would have 200-300 invoices going out a month. So it's just making sure that there's a good relationship there with the customers. And that's what we do. We build relationships with our clients' customers. Very often they will not know that there's a third party involved. It's funny, that we that would sort of have impacts in different ways. That we're talking to the customer, and then they're saying, "Oh, but can you get me this, and can you order me that," and all the rest of it. So we're feeding that back to our customers. So it works well. And it's been a very difficult time recently. We can't necessarily get in touch with people over the phone, which is my first protocol, which is what I prefer to do. It will be very much email based at the minute, simply because a lot of those companies, maybe their customers are not working from the office, and they've got staff and furlough and stuff like that. So it's just adapting to what needs to be done. You'll also find that very often, you've got kinds of people that work maybe on certain days and certain hours, and just making sure everything's scheduled and we're following up where we can. Ruth, I seen your comment there, or saw your comment there about people being awkward asking for money. It's absolutely a culture that we have in Northern Ireland. It is awkward asking for money. And do you know what? I'll even say, if somebody owes me money, I find it, for me who does it 24/7, there's a different aspect to me going and asking for my own money than whenever I'm dealing with my clients. So, it is a cultural thing.
I think one of the best I heard one time was from, I believe it was a rabbi. He talked a lot about business, and he said the money is only a reward for the work that you've already done for the person. So looking at it as a reward. So I think people need to realise that they can't go into the arrangement and not pay. Now, I remember you used to, whenever you were giving your education pitch type of thing in a B&I context, you would talk about Bob. Sometimes we wonder what type of clients you want, but you used to talk about Bob. So tell me a bit more about the Bob that you see.
Okay, Bob is our busy, overworked business owner, and he's just a wee bit of fun. Bob is really my typical client whenever it comes to the full range of services that we offer, that they've really got into business to do what they love, and the whole financial admin side of things is just an absolute nightmare for them. So what happens then is that all that is as a priority falls way down to the bottom of the list. So it has a huge impact in terms of they never know where their cash flow is. They don't know what money that is owed. They don't know what money is due to them. Very often they haven't, their credit control side of things completely falls down because, they're taking on a new customer and they're offering credit even though they haven't done any risk. And then all of a sudden it gets to invoice and they don't get a chance to invoice. There's invoices sitting that need to be raised for months on end. So it has a huge impact on the whole of their business. So they're the type of clients. And you know what? The Bobs of this world, we love working with because he or she then appreciates what we do. They see they respect what we do. And they love then to sit down and have a chat and get an overview of what we can offer, and they'll take our advice on board. So they're our ideal. Bob is our ideal client, and it's funny because I think that just resonates with a lot of people, doesn't it?
Well, you were talking about where you do credit control for some people, you do some ordinary bookkeeping for some people, and you also do, I believe, credit checks and stuff for people as well.
Yeah.
I am sure that that's not all that you get involved in. So what does that drag you into sometimes?
Well, I suppose from me personally, from my point of view within the business, I would get very much heavily involved in the financial overview of the business. Very often working with accountants, like accountants are providing some amazing services. And funny, I have to give a shout out to a lot of our local accountants here over the last couple of months who I just see making some amazing social media appearances to give some information to their clients. And, it's been absolutely fantastic, even those that who maybe weren't comfortable doing it before, but making sure that everybody gets the information they need through these worrying times. So I would get very much involved in maybe some clients that I work quite closely with in their finance. So we're working as like the head of their finance team. So they would have maybe their bookkeepers, their credit controllers, and all the rest of it. But we look at the whole it as a whole. We look at the cash flow management. I keep talking about the cash flow management because it is my passion. Cash is king. We look at the profitability of the business and where it's taken us, any finance that's needed within the business, and working quite closely then with their bank managers, etc. That is absolutely so important now, that people are keeping in touch with their banks and making sure that they know where they stand, and the banks will. I find the banks are working quite closely with people here on the ground, especially if you're lucky enough to have the bank that provides you with a banking manager, no matter how big or small the business. So yeah, we get heavily involved. We've recently just been doing a lot of work with the futures of some businesses and tying up with Invest NI very much over the last couple of years has been fantastic in terms of getting Invest NI involved within the business to be able to provide some funding, to provide some help where it's been absolutely fantastic. So there's so many experts out there, and there's so much help for business that it's great to be able to access that.
It's interesting. There's a message from Joanne Smith. She's saying, I feel embarrassed asking for money I'm owed. But
again, that's the culture. It is. I think Ruth hit the nail on the head. That is the culture, but I think what you said about that, Rabbi Andrew, I think that is very much the case. It is just a reward for the hard work we've done. It's not that you're asking for any charity. It's not that you're asking for somebody just to give you money. You've put the hard work in, and you really deserve the money back. We all have to put food on our tables at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think that's. I don't see why people should be embarrassed because it's your money. Once you've done the work, once you've done the work as well. So.
And it's getting the time for a lot of people. It's getting the time to be able to do that, Andrew. A lot of people don't have the time, and they don't maybe necessarily see it as a priority because people do feel that they should be paid whenever it's due, and before it's due. We have very much a culture of we offer standardized terms of 30 days in a business, depending on what business you're in, obviously. And we have a culture of paying people after those 30 days because we're all looking after our cash flow cycle. And then, it gets us, and people will push that. Other cultures, other European cultures are very, it's very frowned upon if you don't pay within those 30 days. Whereas here we wait till 30 days and then it becomes due as far as we're concerned. And that's not the case. It's due within those 30 days and falls overdue after those 30 days. But that's just the culture we're in. So it's just making sure we're keeping on top of that because the cash within the business, the business can't sustain if it's no cash. Cash is king. I keep saying that.
So you were saying there about the culture and the 30 days. But surely, is some of the mistakes that happen with small business owners that no actual terms and conditions?
No terms and conditions. And you know what? People phone and ask about our credit control services. And the first thing I'll say is, what they're doing is they're phoning and asking, will we take over to ask for their money? And absolutely, we'll do that. But what I do is initially at the very first point of contact, say, look, controlling your credit isn't about asking for money. It's about controlling your credit. And that means who you give money to, how you invoice, how you deal with queries, how quickly you get invoices out, how quickly you get statements out. Because in some businesses, it is just a process that they don't pay until they get a statement. Whereas you would be actually astounded on the issuing of statements. We're all guilty of it. So it's really just making sure that that's all in place. We have a credit checking facility. So what we do is we can offer it out to. Thanks, Steve. We offer it out to various customers that we're doing the credit control for. So what we do is we will do a credit check on their customers, their key customers, and then apply a risk tracker. So what that means is we're alerted should anything happen within their credit report. And I remember, I'll tell this story over and over again. I remember a number of years ago dealing with the credit control for somebody, and we had the risk trackers in place. And they were very key customer to this client. And for months I had said, look, we need to rein this in because it's 30 days have turned into 60 and turned into 90, and it's turned into 90% of your ledger. And I would be a bit worried about that. And they were fantastic. They're brilliant. Sure, everything's fantastic within the business. And, they're top rated in Northern Ireland and all the rest of it. And I got an email through to say that there was it was a resignation in some of the directors. There was a movement in the company, and it just raised alarm bells for me. And I spoke to the customer and said, look, I know you think I'm being silly, but I really do feel we need to rein this in. And we did. He listened to me and we reined it in, and we were able to rein it in to the 60 days. At that time, there were 120. But he saw this as fine because it was a good customer giving him good money. He was a key client and he allowed this to happen. And we reined that in, and the company, for one reason or another, went into liquidation. So that risk exposure had been greatly reduced, and it was just by that wee check. And it was just it wasn't that one thing that we started pulling the credit back in again. It wasn't just that one thing. There was a number of factors. Once I got that, I done a bit of digging. There was a number of factors that exposure was reduced from 120,000 down to, I think it was 35. So if that had happened, then that would have closed my client. There was no coming back from that. But that's a trap that we fall into. We put our eggs in one basket where, they're maybe absolutely fantastic. They have a great reputation. You just do not know what's always going to be going on. So I will always say that do a credit check. As much as a credit check can show you, do a bit of background. But on the other flip side of that, there are a number of businesses that will maybe start rumours about competitors and stuff like that. So whilst, yes, you do need to listen to the advice on the ground, to the business knowledge that you get, you also need to do the whole background check, because rumours can then cause exactly the same effect in terms of we hear there's something going on in that business, and everybody's starting to think that and crawling in their money, and not giving any more credit and all the rest of it. So we do need to be very careful that we're looking at from all sides.
One of the things you're talking about, you mentioned a couple of mistakes that maybe people are making. So what's the largest mistakes, or mistakes you see a small business owner doing? You talk about maybe not invoicing quickly enough. So what's the type of things is red flags?
Not invoicing quickly enough. Also, I would say a big mistake is whenever we're looking at the whole cash flow cycle. People think that if they're holding on to their money that they will, it's good for their cash flow, and that's absolutely true. But remember that if we're not paying suppliers, that has a huge impact on the economy. And if we're not communicating with suppliers, and then they're letting it to draw on, and all that doing is becoming a bigger liability on the business. So it's about managing the cash flow. I would say it's very important that they have a cash flow forecast, and one that's movable, so something that we can enter the numbers in, show on the predicted money that we have coming in, but also on the money that we are going to be paying out, and then that we can move that. So if there is something that needs to be moved. Also, not reviewing the costs in the business. People become busy, they're not reviewing the costs. I've done an exercise there a couple of years ago. I started working with a business, fantastic business, still work with them, just love them to death. But the costs in the business hadn't been reviewed in a number of years. The costs hadn't been reviewed, the credit control hadn't been reviewed. So there was a ball of money outstanding. The costs were horrendous. People, that they just kept renewing contracts and stuff like that, kept using the same suppliers. And so it just wasn't working for the business. We reviewed that whole thing, and the business done so well out of it. The other thing that I would say is that in terms of one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is that not putting their VAT aside. And I know that is all very well said and done, but it does have a long-term impact. Where it gets to the end of the quarter and they haven't put the money aside, even part of the money aside, and what happens is then they go, actually, I don't have that money, and they don't pay it. And after a couple of times, there are huge, hefty penalties with HMRC. So that has a huge, big impact in terms of not only are they delaying the inevitable, but then there's a big fee. There's a lot of interest that's being charged, and that's very hard to recoup and very hard to get back from. So that is just not one way to finance a business, and that can be worked upon very easily. We've dealt with in the past where it isn't feasible all the time. Sometimes people do get themselves into a bit of difficulty and maybe don't have that money sitting there or tax money. But as long as you're working and you're talking to HMRC, I've always found them quite reasonable to work with. So it's really just about looking overviewing the whole business and deciding where to finance the business from. Don't finance it from the creditors. Don't finance it from HMRC, because it's a vicious cycle then. And everybody needs to just be very mindful of that. And maybe ignoring some of the we look at profitability of a business and we look at the cash and their complete cash flow, and it's two completely different things, and it frustrates a lot of my clients, whenever we're looking at their profit and loss and they're going, but I don't see it in the bank. And it is really frustrating. But the cash is a different position.
No, well, do you think in many cases that should a business owner be building up some reserves? Because I'm quite sure whenever we go into certain events, like we've just come into the COVID, people had no reserve maybe. So there's a panic. Should people have a reserve in a company?
Yeah, absolutely. Build up a bit of money for a rainy day, as I call it. And I very often, what we do is, if it's possible, we would put 20% aside of the sales that are coming in, and that's for the VAT. But then, obviously you've got the other side of the VAT from the purchases, etc. So that's obviously building up that extra reserve. We pay the VAT money out, and that can be reinvested back into the money or into the business, or hold it on as a reserve, which is a good idea to do. The thing about COVID is that for those who are fortunate enough, there have been absolutely fantastic schemes in terms of loans, grants, furlough scheme grants, etc. So people at the minute probably, I would say, are feeling, those who have been fortunate enough to benefit from them are feeling quite flush. And what everybody does need to remember is that it'll be 2 or 3 months' time that the business will be affected when the sales for the last couple of months aren't being collected back in, and maybe sales aren't being generated just as quickly because people are a wee bit tentative with their cash. So, I would say that we do need to reserve those. Also, if those people, businesses are using the time to pay for PAYE and for their VAT, that is going to be collected. There is going to be a time that comes, and if we look at quickly, the first 6 months of this year has gone in. That money's going to be collected next March. So whenever we're looking at the cash flow forecast, that we are building that in over the forthcoming months, up to the end of January, up to the end of March.
Yeah, it's going to be where we are at the minute. We nearly seem as if we're in a bit of a bubble.
Very much so. Yeah. So we're going to see the impact of that in the next few months, really. And then there's the businesses who unfortunately just were missed out and didn't. Small business directors and new startups and things like that who unfortunately didn't get that. But out of all of this, I've seen an amazing amount of people just seeking new opportunities, diversifying their business, and that's fantastic. And it means that there's a wee bit of reserve of cash coming in there and a wee bit of cash flow coming in there for those businesses.
So Ian has commented, he says, what do you do with liars? In other words, the people who never pay their bills. So what's your step?
Well, Joe, it's funny because whenever I'm training staff or talking to staff or we're doing a credit control training course for other people's staff, we'd always make sure that people are being caught out. So in terms of from the first phone call when somebody says that they'll pay you and the check's going out today, make sure they know that you will be phoning them back in 2 days if that check hasn't. Ask when you can expect payment, and whenever they tell you, you hold them accountable to that and tell them that you will be phoning them back. Unfortunately, we're not going to escape all liars, but we have to be very careful we don't deal with those people going forward, and that there isn't credit constantly given. That's the big mistake that businesses do, that they say they listen to that and then they continue to give credit and they get frustrated because these people aren't paying them. But if we're allowing them to do that, then unfortunately, it's going to be a vicious circle, and things. Theory behind in insanity. It's the person who does something over and over again and expect the same results. So we don't want to be doing that because it literally is insane. I would say, if you're consistently getting lies, then you consistently have to do what you're going to say you're going to do. Ensure that you have a proper credit control procedure in place so that builds momentum. So you've got the first phone call, hi, how are you? Make sure you've got the invoice okay, there's no queries, blah, blah, blah. The second phone call is ramping that up a bit. And the third phone call is, look, we understand that we haven't received payment. You've told us this, and this. But at this stage, we have to move this along a bit more. And if you do make the threat, make sure you do stick to it. That's what I would say. Don't make idle threats.
So if you think of where you are at the moment and different things, what would you say is your top 3 tips for the business owner today?
Number 1 is get a cash flow forecast in place. No matter how small, there are some people out there that will really help you. Talk to your accountants if you have that relationship. I don't expect them to be able to touch base with every single one. Talk to your bookkeepers. This is all, talk to the experts within that finance side of things. Number 2 would be to, that was number 2. The first one was get cash flow forecast in place. And number 3 is really look at getting your finances up to date. Get them onto a system that allows you to manage it, and don't leave it so blasé in future. And that means that your invoices are going out. You can see when the invoices are being paid. You can see invoices that are coming in, and really have a good overview of where you are in the business.
I'll just put on the screen, actually, that's your website, so people can get in touch with you through that way. And also there's your email address as well, which is Cathy@ImperiumCashflow.com. I'm quite sure you're willing to help anyone who has a
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Really, really well. I'm really passionate about it. So if it is something that you're struggling with at the minute, or it is something that you do feel that you need a wee bit of guidance around, you absolutely get in touch, especially over the forthcoming months. It's going to be difficult for people. But you know what? There's so many opportunities, and I think we can all view it as a reset button. I'm doing it for my business, and I'm going to have to engage the services of others, where I've realized that I am useless at that side of my business. So, I'll be very much doing that going forward. So we're here to help if this isn't something that's your forte or something you enjoy doing.
just finishing up with some things. I know this is on a BNI Facebook page today, a live event. So tell us a wee bit about how you got involved in BNI. You told us a bit about that, but what the difference that's made to your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was actually my sister dragged me along, and I think it's 10 years ago this month, Andrew. And I was an employee in a business. I wouldn't have had a lot of confidence going out and meeting people or social or networking and stuff like that. And it was something I was just stuck in the office all the time. Wouldn't have got involved in anybody else. Got stuck in the office all the time and just process what I had to process. I had banking experience behind me, the finance, and at that particular time we're doing a lot of credit control, outsourcing a lot of legal work for people. And this sister dragged me along as a visitor because she wanted to bring a visitor along, and it was a core group, and I actually fell in love with the people in it. It was fantastic, and then my bosses at the time encouraged me to go along and join. So it actually set me on a different path altogether. Probably as an entrepreneur, I hate using that word for myself, an entrepreneur, but as somebody could see myself then have my own wee business moving forward in the future. It's funny because that was an important part of my family life growing up. For anybody who knows me, me personally, and my family life, it then built so much confidence. I remember walking into the room and trying to do the first 60 seconds, and it was horrendous. And stand in front of people, and I blabbed, absolutely blabbed. Don't know what I said. Really embarrassing being around all these people. But as the weeks went on, I realised everybody was there to support each other. And as I mentioned earlier, that chapter then became a big part of my life. I'm still very good friends. They encouraged me whenever the business I was working for closed down and I was made redundant. And, it was trying times. I was really worried about how I was going to pay the mortgage, how we were going to pay bills. And they really encouraged me. And a few of them said, look, we'll be your first clients. And they did. They became, and they're still with me now. It's funny that the encouragement that I got, and ever since. So I then got involved in BNI. I was sitting on the Northern Ireland team. It was a guy, actually, it was Simon Smith who owned it at the time, or directed it in Northern Ireland at the time, and he brought me into the Northern Ireland team, obviously just to build up my confidence and my abilities, etc. And was ambassador. Met some absolutely amazing people around the chapters, and it was just fantastic for me in terms of confidence building. Really just getting that business knowledge. And it's funny because if I have a down day, if I'm having a bad day, I lift the phone, and it's the people out of BNI that I've met, the people that I'm in a chapter with now, I'm lifting the phone and going, ah, and they're able to settle me and go, do you know what, it's okay, it's fine, it's going to be okay. And equally, I have colleagues in BNI who do that with me. It's just been, so the friendships that I have made to this day are phenomenal. The business opportunities have been amazing, and but it's really the business development and the personal development for me that has been the forefront.
So you mentioned about getting business from BNI, which is great. You mentioned about some of the personal development. So what would you say has been some of the things that have really helped you in BNI?
Probably just in terms of being able to present my business, and then obviously work with you, Andrew, in the mindset, in terms of holding me accountable to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And not that I always do it, and I'm sure that's frustrating. But just to have that business knowledge. And I get a lot of business from BNI. I do, absolutely, 100%. I get a lot of business from client referrals. I don't do a lot of marketing. I'm terrible at it. My website's terrible. I knew I need to do all that. Again, I just need to engage the services of people who actually know what they're doing. The guy who's doing my website, he's a very good friend of mine. And he'll keep saying, you need to get me the stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I need to get you the stuff. So I just need to really focus on that. But my business is going because I'm able to ask for it from clients. I'm able to get it from clients who are willing to recommend me. But also I have a sales team there sitting of 30 people on a Friday morning. At the start of this COVID-19 pandemic, and we all closed and weren't able to meet on a Friday morning as we do, just to sort of give ourselves a check. and we started meeting on Zoom. And it's lovely actually just to see everybody on a Friday morning and really give each other a bit of a boost and see how we can help each other. It's been fantastic. I'm still getting people who are coming to me looking for us to do their work, and that's amazing. That is amazing.
Excellent. No, if you want to know any more about Cathy and what she does, or in credit control, bookkeeping, you want to know more about BNI and how she can help you even through that way, then you can drop her an email at Cathy@imperiumcashflow.com. It's been a privilege to have you on, Cathy. We've been on nearly for 40 plus minutes. 40. So
that's it. Once you start me talking, I don't stop, Andrew.
which is excellent. Have you any closing thing just maybe to say to people in the sense, because I know that I'm sure, we talk about referrals and BNI, which we class as the golden egg sort of type referral, but I'm sure there's the golden goose out there, the people who give over and over again. So would that be the type of accountants maybe you'd be looking to contact as well?
Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of the golden goose in BNI, what I would say is it's not necessarily somebody's going to pass you direct referrals, but somebody who will refer you to other people that know other people that need you. So it's really just it's not about the selfishness in BNI. And I think that's the thing. If you're a selfish person, you won't survive in business that way. If you're looking to build a referral-based clientele, but really just about the knowledge that others have around you, about seeking that out, about asking for help from others, and not to be afraid to say, look, I'd really love to deal with these kind of people, and if you can help me. And that's where I've got some really lovely clients on board. I'm very, very proud and very passionate about some of the clients that I work with. And I love having that relationship with them. I love watching their business grow. I love being their first port of call whenever they're going to make a finance decision, whether it be by machinery, by this, by that, take on a new supplier. I love that. It's fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Cathy, for being with us today. It has been a privilege to hear a little bit more about your business and how some of the impact you're making on other businesses and even all the different things that are happening. So thank you for being on today. Thank you for being part of this. And again, I would say to people, please reach out to Cathy if you need any help or any support or any questions. And we've been showing her email and stuff as well. So thank you very much, Cathy. And thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right, folks. Thank you. And thank you for those who watched and those who've been questions as well.
Thanks, guys, for the comments and the questions.
Thank you.